Well, the Lagos State government recently alerted residents that the state will experience more heavy rains by end of August into September and October. Now, this follows Nigerian Meteorological Agency forecast in its 2020 seasonal rainfall prediction, SRP, early in the year that Lagos State will experience a rainy season of 240 to 270 days, with more rains expected in September and October. Now, the agency predicted in the SRP report that the onset of the growing season expected to be near normal to earlier than normal in most parts of the country. It forecast earliest onset date likely to October on February 24 around coastal zone of South states, while Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, Katsina, Jigawa, Yobe and Borno are likely to have their onset from June 2. On a cessation, a normal to later than normal cessation is expected across the country. The earliest cessation date of around September 26 is expected around Katsina and northern parts of Sokoto for more than 5 weeks now. Most parts of the country, particularly the southwest, have not had rain, and this, many agriculturists say, have implications for food security in Nigeria. To throw more light on this, I'm being joined by the chairman, Agric and Agro Allied Group of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. African Farmer Mogaji. Thank you very much, Mr. African Farmer, for joining us on the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you know, it surprised me that for more than 5 weeks now, we have not seen rain. Naturally, July, we experience heavy rain, but we've not seen, you know, that happen. For me, that's very strange. Is that a warning for some kind of food insecurity? Are we going to have some kind of food scarcity in the future?
It's likely. It's likely because when we had, prior to that, the break in the rain, we had like 2 weeks downpour every day.
Absolutely.
From experience, what happens after that kind of prolonged downpour is an early August, what we used to know as early August break. And from experience, it normally spans around a month to 6 to 7 weeks. And so, yes.
Naturally, the break, we're supposed to have it in August.
Yeah,
so
but
what they call August break
in the last like 8 years, it's not been regular due to climate change that we've not paid attention to, that most planning doesn't pay attention to climate change. We still plan as if everything is normal. So we don't bring climate change into the equation. So, yeah, there may be a challenge. And, you know, this is our main rain season in Southwest. And as you move to, like Niger State is also witnessing the same. Kogi is having the same challenge. I still spoke with the farmers in Kaduna. They are having it better, but the rain is not regular. I spoke to Gombe today. It's not regular also.
Well, from what the forecast is saying, in the future, perhaps in September, they're going to have some kind of cessation there.
Yes, so the challenge, yeah, they are going to have it.
And now what happens, because we have most of our food coming in, you know, from the north?
That's where I question the ban on the grains, because the forecast was released in February. So if a decision to place a ban or to restrict some movement, we need to pay attention to that. So if the northeast and core, and north central and core have the same issues Southwest is having now, then there's a clear and present challenge ahead of us. So if they have that, we may be in for some rocky ground.
Now, does that mean that some of these data that is being churned out, I mean, for NIMET, of course, this is a projection. It's expected that the government should work with it. Is it that we don't consider that in our policy making?
Agencies generally in the country, and I'll speak for agriculture, they don't work together. And I use the word they don't work together because when you see a policy come out and the practitioners know that this agency has come out with this information, you know, the meteorological agency have their data, the river basins have functional meteorological stations. You know, so if they work with this document to know, yes, so some agencies, they are funding them to produce maize and some other grains. But if you pay attention to the data given out in February, you will know the timing in which you should bring out these policies, this initiative. So if you bring it out ahead of time, this is what you have. You know, so But I don't see them working together because every time there's a ban, we industry experts come to say, good initiative, bad timing. They don't use that data.
Now, what food commodities and subsectors of the agri sector would this situation be affecting the most?
It's likely to be affecting almost everything, especially our grains, which is the key product. You were talking about rice. So take, for instance, CBN has given Anchor Borough's funds to farmers. So the farmers who took the funds in the Southwest.
So that would also have implications.
It has implications. So, and that's why we need to engage all the parastatals, all the government agencies. So rice, maize, the current ban. So the Southwest maize farmers, it's affecting their planting season. So they expect rain to stop around October. They expect to have like 3 months rain. So we're not likely to have. So soya, maize, yams also. It affects the production and harvesting because the lands it's hard now. So across, cassava is just the only crop that is likely to go free. And what we call Benin seed, reedy, system seed, that does well in very adverse climates. So yeah, almost everything is likely
and
to be
obviously this will have implications for inflation.
Oh,
for
definitely.
The price of food going up.
Definitely. It's already going up. It's already going up. So, and we need to have like national policies around irrigation. I did some studies in India last year, and there was a national policy to make irrigation available to the rural farmers. You know, so we need government and the private sector to come together again, like we did for COVID.
Okay, so do we really have strategic reserve for, storing these food items?
That's a jump question.
Well, you got to answer.
We don't have enough of the silos. We don't have enough. And I've not seen any visionary leadership to say that, okay, we want to increase the grain reserves by X tons in the next 4 or 5 years. That influence, it cascades down. So our silos, I would say this because our silos are practically, some of them are empty. Some of them are empty because when they concessions some of those silos out, it was meant for the people who got it to go and grow the cereals and fill the silos up. But many of the people who got those silos didn't even know about agric at all. So they wanted to start clearing lands in June with heavy equipment. When that won't work. So we need to have a new vision to say this, for maize we need X tons, for this we need X tons. How many silos do we need? So the silos currently that we have, if the grains are filled up, the poultry farmers won't be crying out.
Because of the ban,
because the ban. They should just release those. Yeah, they should just release from the silos, the reserves. So we don't have reserves for almost everything. And that's where I have concern. If it doesn't rain for 5 weeks in Northeast and in Kaduna especially, Saminaka, then we have an issue at our hands.
Now, what precautionary measures are the farmers taking on their own or can take on their own?
It's to reduce their production. That's what they do. That's what they do. And that's what it's currently happening.
That, again, has its implications.
Yeah, so COVID slowed them down from going to the farm. Now it's not raining. So because there's no adequate system, working with them when there are challenges like this. So what they do is they don't want to embrace more losses, so they have to just withdraw. So instead of doing like 20 acres, 100 acres, and for the smallholder farmers, 10 acres, they just do 1 acre. So it affects the yield, the productivity, and the things we have at the end of the day.
Yeah. Now, there have been, again, predictions of widespread flooding in the country in a few months to come. 28 states have been identified as prone to flooding. First, what is the degree of the accuracy or reliability, of this prediction? We've seen Lagos State already is warning, the residents of the upcoming flood.
Yes, so the trend from experience also in the agri sector is when you have these long spells of not having rainfall. What comes, especially in September, you're going to have very heavy downpours. And when you have that downpours, it gives, so the prediction, it gives heavy rainfall. The prediction is near or almost very accurate because we're expecting the downpour and the farmers also will reduce their production.
So does this also pose any risk to food security in the country?
Definitely. When you have, when you check the states that have that potential flood coming in, they are key. Niger, Benue. That river spills off. So when you check, the river basins all connect across the country. It's either it's moving from one to another one, taking it, you know. So bottom line is that most of the river basin projects work on these low plains. When the floods come in, they also cannot go to the farm early to start production in October. It will move to November. So it's an interwoven thing. It's a value chain also that we need to begin to pay attention
What about the issue of insecurity, particularly in the north?
You know, all these issues are there. We need some practical economic reform that really gets this done. And what do I mean by that? We need to get agric experts who can operate with policy and also have business experience to come in to bring out policies. But guess what? The insecurity is affecting the north more, and the recent challenges coming in Kaduna is going to affect the grain value chain and supply.
Where does research come into play here?
Research helps you, and even we need to begin to look at mapping our lands. You engage technology, satellites, who will show you history of 10 years. You know, there are organizations that can do that in the country now. So we need more technology than what we're doing currently to be able to map, to say, okay, this is the rainfall pattern in the next 10 years, and how can we get it done? But this is done through satellites because it's almost close to or very accurate.
Okay. So what should the government be doing at the moment?
One, we need to begin to have new conversations around visioning. What do we want? How do we want it? And to get clear documents, we want to produce X, Y, and we need people with relevant experience to champion this. Then two, we need to employ technology to be able to map enough of the way we're doing agri 60 years ago. There's just little difference 60 years after.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Mr. African Farmer Mogaji, the chairman, Agric and Agro Allied Group of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for being
having
part
me.
of the show. Okay, let's cross over now to Temple for update and a review of the equities market yesterday. Temple.
Yes, Chimaze, thank you so much. Let's talk about stocks now and rest it on the food, as we've discussed with Mr. African Farmer. Now, yesterday we were able to rise by some 0.02%, thanks to what we saw on the banking stocks yesterday, which contributed massively to what we have in the market. 66.22% of the entire total market turnover we had yesterday came from investors' interest in the tier 1 names. Now, yesterday we added 2 billion naira to what we have in the equity capitalization of the exchange. So that leaves us in the 13 trillion naira territory for equity capitalization. We look at the volume of transactions, which was positive yesterday by some 68%. It's as a result of some of the gains that we saw in Zenith Bank, which rose by some 30 basis points. And of course, 32 million units of its shares was traded yesterday. So when you add to, when you look at what we have here, basically, it accounted for 600 million naira actually in the 2.46 billion naira worth of transactions that we had on Zenith Bank only yesterday. But when you add to what we have on GT Bank, which was also one of the most actively traded stocks in the market, as well as Access Bank and UBA, these are tier 1 names in the market that folks are waiting patiently for their earnings, for half-year earnings and Q2 2020 numbers to come in, hoping that they will be able to get some interim dividends or at least some sort of bonus in the market. That's the reason why we are seeing the interest in these tier 1 names yesterday. This was up yesterday by more than 50%. That's the value of transaction. Look at the banking stocks as I've described. Our sector gained some 52 basis points yesterday. Of course, we know that Sterling Bank was up by more than 2%. The managing director, in a disclosure to the stock exchange yesterday or the day before, it shows that the managing director actually increased his stake in this particular company, and that also accounted for the 2.7% gains that we saw on Sterling Bank yesterday. Fidelity Bank was also one of the companies that actually recorded some gains yesterday. Access Bank was up by some 73 basis points yesterday, and of course, GT Bank and Zenith Bank, which recorded more gains. Consumer goods side of the market, we saw some profits taken yesterday. Of course, the transactions in the market yesterday explains the cherry picking on attractive stocks that we've seen in the market lately, and of course some profits taken. So Nigerian Breweries was one of the companies where we saw profits taken on yesterday, because this is a company that has been recording some gains in recent times, and so that's reduced the performance of the consumer goods sector. Industrial goods side of the market, we saw WAPCO, which was down yesterday by some 0.43 basis points, and that accounted for the losses that we have in this sector. Insurance side of the market, we seem to be having some kind of cross-dealing on Cornerstone, or some increase of stake in Cornerstone lately. It was up by 9% yesterday. And of course, Lasaco was up by more than 7% yesterday. Put together, we had 89 basis points rise. Now, oil and gas, we saw huge profits taken in this space yesterday. Why did I say that? The day before, Adova had been up by some 10%. And of course, we got all of those gains shaved off yesterday by some smart investors that couldn't wait to take profits. So it reduced all the way from 13 Naira plus to 12 Naira. But we have joining us on phone right now, Mohammed Jami, who is the head of securities dealing at APT Securities and Investments Funds. Jami, thank you for joining us on the program. What are the catalysts that you're looking out for in the market at this point to strengthen these seeming bullish trends that we're beginning to see in the market?
Yes, the bullish trend in the market is still well expected, and we see in the bullish run. Though, markets move in steps and bounds, and in that case, you see some days of gains and some days of loss because of the activities of the traders who want to use the advantage of the bullish trend to take the advantage, to take profit from their taking in the market. So that does not mean that the bullish trend has been halted. No, the bullish trend is still continuing, but for the fact that the market moves in steps and bounds because of the activities of trader and speculator, that is why we are having this negative and trend that we have. The last two, the Monday and yesterday, we have a marginal rate in the market.
So I know that investors can't really wait to see the results of the tier 1 names that we have in the markets, talking about Zenith, GT Bank, Access Bank, and of course UBA. In fact, UBA had put out a notice that their numbers have been approved by the board. So what do you think is really delaying the release of these companies' earnings for the first half of the year?
Yes, this sector, these tier 1 banks, most of them pay interim dividends for the half year. And remember, it has to be audited before they can pay dividends on the results released so far. And if you look at the results being released by most of these banks, they are even very encouraged. They perform beyond expectation. We were thinking that the COVID-19 lockdown will affect the bottom line of this company. Yes, it affected them, but they were able to cut their costs. So cutting the cost by reducing the level of, the activities during the lockdown, there are some costs that some of these banks were able to cut down, and that made the bottom line to be so impressive. And for this, everybody is expecting that all these banks, especially the tier 1 banks that pay interim dividends, they are possibly going to replicate what they had in last year's interim dividend. So everybody is confident that whatever the result or whatever the dividend or interim dividend they are going to declare, they are going to at least replicate what they did last year. So
in the preceding years, because this is a historical thing with these companies.
And they are very happy to stake in this company.
All right, Jami, Mohammed, thank you so much for giving us this analysis. I appreciate them. And everyone will continue to keep their fingers crossed as we watch out for the release of their numbers. Jami Mohammed is the head of securities dealing with APT Securities and Fund. Back to you now, Chimizu.
Well, Temple, the unpredictability of the market is unbeatable. So I like that phrase, seeming bullish trend. So let's hope it continues today.
Yes.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll do an opening call to London, and then back to you, Temple.